To truly understand Herbert Marcuse's one-dimensional man, we must first grasp the context and brilliance of the man behind it. Marcuse was a German-American philosopher, sociologist, and political theorist who emerged as one of the leading figures of the Frankfurt School. His work tackled the crises of late capitalism, the suppression of dissent, and the ways in which advanced industrial societies stifle individual freedom. Often compared to Marx in his time, Marcuse carried forward the critical spirit of Marxism, but he adapted it to the conditions of the mid-20th century. A world defined by consumer culture, Cold War politics, and the dominance of technological rationality. One-Dimensional Man, published in 1964, is Marcuse's magnum opus, a searing critique of both capitalist and socialist societies. He argued that modern industrial civilization had created a society in which people's critical capacities and their ability to imagine alternatives to the status quo had been profoundly eroded. Marcuse wasn't just diagnosing economic systems, he was unmasking how ideology and culture operate to suppress radical change. At the heart of One-Dimensional Man is Marcuse's concept of one-dimensionality. This refers to a flattening of thought, culture, and political discourse, where dominant systems of production and consumption create a false sense of freedom. People believe they are free because they can choose between countless brands of toothpaste or smartphones. But in reality, their lives are confined within the limits of a system that prioritizes profit over genuine human flourishing. Marcuse argued that this one-dimensionality wasn't just a result of brute force or censorship, it was far more insidious. Advanced industrial societies, through mass media, advertising, and technology, create a kind of false consciousness. They manipulate desires and channel dissent into harmless avenues. The very tools that could liberate humanity, like technology and education, are used instead to reinforce conformity. For example, consumer culture makes people equate happiness with material possessions, leaving little room for revolutionary thought or collective action. Marcuse's critique extended to both capitalism and Soviet-style socialism. He saw both systems as exploitative, though in different ways. In capitalist societies, the mechanisms of control are subtle. People are lulled into complacency through consumer goods, entertainment, and the illusion of choice. In socialist regimes, control was more overt, relying on state repression to maintain order. What both systems shared, according to Marcuse, was their suppression of critical thinking and radical alternatives. Marcuse was particularly concerned with how technological rationality, what he called instrumental reason, had become the dominant mode of thought in industrial societies. Instrumental reason prioritizes efficiency, productivity, and control, often at the expense of human values like creativity, community, and freedom. In this framework, technology is not neutral. It's embedded within social relations and serves the interests of those in power. Instead of liberating humanity, technology becomes a tool for domination, integrating individuals more deeply into the system rather than freeing them from it. Yet Marcuse was not without hope. He believed in the possibility of a great refusal, a radical rejection of the status quo. For Marcuse, this refusal would not come from the traditional working class, which he saw as largely integrated into the capitalist system, but from marginalized groups and intellectuals who could imagine a different world. Marcuse's hope lay in the capacity of art, philosophy, and countercultural movements to awaken critical consciousness and inspire revolutionary change. His analysis resonated deeply during the social upheavals of the 1960s, influencing movements from student protests to civil rights struggles. Marcuse's call for a new kind of liberation, one that transcends materialism and instrumental rationality, found an audience among those disillusioned with both capitalism and state socialism. His work reminds us that the fight for freedom is not just economic or political, it's also cultural and intellectual. In many ways, One-Dimensional Man feels more relevant than ever. Today, we live in a world dominated by digital technology, mass surveillance, and consumer culture on a global scale. The critiques Marcuse leveled against the commodification of life, the manipulation of desires, and the suppression of dissent apply as much to the algorithmic age as they did to the industrial age. Social media platforms, for instance, create echo chambers that reinforce conformity and commodify human interactions. The illusion of freedom persists, But as Marcuse warned, it is a freedom confined within the limits of a system that prioritizes profit and control over genuine emancipation. As we confront the crises of our own time, climate change, economic inequality, and the erosion of democracy, Marcuse's work challenges us to think beyond the constraints of one-dimensionality. How can we build a society where technology serves human needs rather than corporate interests? How can we foster a culture that encourages critical thinking and radical imagination? And most importantly, how can we resist the forces that seek to integrate us ever more deeply into a system that denies us true freedom? Marcuse's one-dimensional man is not just a critique, it's a call to action. It urges us to see through the illusions of our time and to imagine a world that prioritizes human flourishing over profit, creativity over conformity, and freedom over domination. His work reminds us that another world is not only possible, it's necessary. Thank you for watching. If you found this video insightful, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into revolutionary thought and philosophy. Let us know your thoughts on Marcuse's one-dimensional man in the comments below. How do you see his ideas playing out in the world today? Until next time, stay critical, stay curious, and stay hopeful.